And beginning our broadcast today, according to a study by the Nebraska Cattlemen Beef Association, the U.S. cattle industry lost over $13 billion by early April due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And from closed processing plants to packed feed yards, it's being felt everywhere. On Tuesday, I spoke with Mike Briggs over at Briggs Feed Yard about how his day-to-day operations have changed and advice for producers in a similar position.
I'm completely stuffed full. I've got a show list that's probably 25% of my yard. That's never true. For instance, my show list probably run from 200 to 500 head on the outside. My show list is 1,600 head. It's been that way for a month. There was 3 weeks where I barely got a bid for cattle, and now when they come out with a bid, you better take what they've bid, or you're not going to get any cattle sold again. And you can't keep these cattle forever. That's the problem with cattle. They're not really a storable commodity. You can't just say, well, I don't like the price and leave it in the corn bin. So you're in a situation now where you're just going to have to take it because the cattle got to go. I did it today. I went ahead and sold cattle on a Tuesday because these cattle have to go.
With the issues that have been happening with ethanol, curious as to if you've been running into anything regarding a reduction in DDGs and what you're doing to make up for that.
Well, that's a great question. Now, the plant that we get from, because we feed modified, they gave us a heads up quite a few weeks ago. Hey, we're going to have a planned shutdown on April 20th. So immediately we dropped our usage to half, but kept taking all of our product and stockpiling it. Now, as the weather gets warmer, that doesn't keep very good, but at least I have a natural protein source for my cattle for the time being. Now, with oil where it is, I'll be surprised if any of them open back up. So we're going to have to change what we do. We're going to have to go back to 30 years ago or 20 years ago when there wasn't ethanol, and we're going to have to change how we feed cattle and basically go back to the future.
And it was a few months ago we talked about how difficult it is sometimes to find good work at the feed yard. I know that's a challenge, and I would think with the pandemic makes things even tougher in terms of the day-to-day operations and how that's affected. So what are some ways that you're working to reduce the spread at the feed yard with your staff, ensure everybody's safe, and what advice would you have for others in a position such as yourself?
That's a great question. I've been concerned about it. I know where my employees are, why they're here, what they do after they leave. You don't know. We've discussed it as a staff, how we need to be careful. Now, as far as our office is concerned, the girls are handing stuff to people through the door. People are not allowed in the office. As far as the outside staff, the guys in the feed trucks, they're pretty well isolated. It's the cowboys getting together that you got to worry about. So we've tried to keep people, at a distance and not be having little huddles in the cowboy room. You need to be out away from each other. But like I said, I'm pretty concerned because when they're gone, I don't know what they're doing or who they're around. But we've tried to do our social distancing here as best we can. So I guess a lot of what we kind of do besides, when they're out riding pins, they're by themselves. But then in the afternoons, we're not really doing group projects. They're out in equipment by themselves. So we're trying to do things like that. But we're aware of it and feel pretty fortunate that we haven't had an issue yet.
This next question regarding just how prices have been impacted. Slaughter issues causing live cattle prices to go lower, and then you've got box beef prices that are just shooting straight up. So if you could kind of give us a rundown on what you've been seeing there over the last few weeks and what you think is going to need to happen in order to get things more in line with where we'd expect them to be.
Well, you're going to have to be able to have the processing plants working full gear. That's just all there is to it. We're all very frustrated out in the cattle industry. We're sold cattle last week at $1.48, and then you see the beef quote at $3. Well, of course, that's infuriating to no end. Now the packers will come back at you and say, yeah, but our production costs have gone up. Well, they hadn't gone up a month ago when you were doing this to you. I implore every cattleman, they need to be calling their congressmen, they need to be calling their senators and make them alert as to what's going on. I'm not throwing a guy under the bus, but a local banker that's been in our community forever asked me about this today. He had no understanding of the economics of the cattle business. Well, he's not an ag lender, he's a commercial lender, so I understand that. But if he lives in this community and he's all of 3 miles away from my feed yard, there's no way people in Washington, D.C. understand this. So, to all producers, call your senators, call your congressmen. They need to know. I've been on the phone with people in Congressman Fortenberry's office on a weekly basis just to inform them of this that's going on. Now, the situation we have now where you've got reduced production, yes, the costs for the packer have gone up, so he's not making the extraordinary amounts of money he's been making for the last 90 days. Um, so some of those economics have changed for him. The concern I have now is with beef going like it is, now you're going to have demand destruction. You're going to get it so high priced. There's so many people that don't have jobs. You're going to get so high priced they're not going to be able to buy it. So when the packers do get up and going, here comes the supply of beef, and you've done so much demand destruction. What's going to happen on the other end? Well, then does it have to then drop again down to the consumer before he starts to buy it? And then we take another wave of a beating that, quite frankly, this industry can't stand.